Welcome to the NorthField podcast with Caleb Gordon. You can find out more about Caleb at www.calebgordon.com. Welcome to the podcast, ladies and gentlemen. So let me ask you a question. Have you ever had a moment where you just did not like someone, or you had someone in that you came across that you just were not in favor of? You honestly just couldn't stand. And I guess, for lack of a better word, you were their enemy, or they were your enemy. Have you ever had that moment, like a Batman and Joker, Batman and Joker moment or you had an arch enemy? It felt like you had an arch enemy anyways. I know that all of us on some level have had that moment where we felt like we just weren't on the same page with certain people, and they had mindsets and they had stuff that they believed and stuff that they thought, and you just couldn't stand them. You couldn't stand them. Man, what's our first gut reaction when we have somebody that walks into our lives that are viewed as an enemy, looked on as an enemy? What's our first gut reaction? If they wrong us, what do we tend to want to do? We want to get back, right? We want to get back at them, and we want to hurt, and we want to tear up, and we want to try to, dismember on some level. Maybe, let's just be honest. We're being honest here in this little thought. We sometimes want to inflict physical harm on people that we don't like. Is that right? That's the question. Is it right? The answer is no. It's not right. It's wrong. In fact, Jesus tells us in Matthew chapter 5, verse 44, says, "But I tell you, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you." And that is really a thought that everybody in the church knows. Like, we all know, hey man, we're supposed to love our enemies. Like, everybody knows that. But here's the thing that's distressing to so many of us, is that we don't apply it. And I will go ahead and just point the finger directly at me and sometimes say, I am the chiefest of this, of not loving the people that I need to love. Like, that's on me. Like, I don't love certain people that sometimes. I have moments where I don't. Like, I see people that I admire, that I'm like, golly, you just have the ability to have so much grace with people that are complete jerks and complete buffoons. And you have such an ability to have such grace with them. And I'm like, oh man, I want that. I want to be able to have the grace to love people that are not lovable. Because here's the thing. If you really think about it and you really focus on this, none of us are really lovable at all times. There are moments where we're not lovable. We are not hospitable. We're combative. We're abrasive. And everybody thinks, man, the world would be a better place if everybody thought and acted like me. Everybody thinks that down deep in their heart, because we all love us. Like, everybody loves. You love you, and I love me. And, we all do that. We all love ourselves very well. Here's the thing that we need to think about is the world is made up of different people, and the world's made up of all kinds of personalities, and we don't always mesh, and we don't always get along. But Jesus tells us that we're to love each other regardless. And so how do you handle somebody if they're persecuting? How do you handle somebody that's your enemy? How do you handle somebody that is not lovable? Well, you do what Jesus tells you to do. You do what Jesus did. You love people even though they're hard to walk with, even though they're hard to deal with. You still show them grace. You still show them love, because here's what happened. I was shown grace and love by Jesus when I didn't deserve it. I was shown favor when I didn't deserve it. I was shown hospitality when I deserved hostility. There was a moment where I was an enemy of God, and God, in His grace and His mercy and His love, came and sought me out and loved me even though I did not deserve to be loved. So you sit there and say, Caleb, you don't understand what someone did to me. They hurt me. They were mean to me. They did this. They did that. They were hurtful. They talked about me. They were mean to me. And I say, man, I feel for you. I have some empathy there because guess what? I've lived in a world where people were mean to me. So I've got some empathy for that. But I'm going to go a little bit further. Jesus had it far worse than we did. They crucified Him. Remember, He's hanging on the cross. Remember Jesus hanging on the cross? And as He's hanging there, if you and I are hanging there after being beat for, I don't know, hours and hours and hours, and then nailed to a cross, we're not up there thinking lovely thoughts about the people that have just beat us and nailed us to a cross. You and I are not thinking, oh man, you know what? I'd love to go have tea with them. Or let's go get a coffee. I'd love to sit down and eat dinner with you. Like, we're not thinking that. Jesus is hanging on that cross and He pleads with the Father. Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. That is power. That is power, ladies and gentlemen. To be able to be hung on a cross by people that are legitimate enemies of you. In more than one sense of the word, enemies both physically and spiritually. I mean, they're enemies of God. And Jesus pleads with the Father. He says, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. Like, that is power to be able to say, God, I know what they're doing, but Lord, I ask you to forgive them. I ask you to, they don't know what they're doing. They're very short-sighted in this. They don't see the eternal view here. They don't see what we're really trying to accomplish, Lord. Please forgive them. You and I were hanging on the cross. I would have called the legions of angels down. I would have been like, listen, get them! But Jesus doesn't do that. He extends love. And He loves His enemies. And Jesus tells us in Matthew 5, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you. Pray for what? Pray for reconciliation. Pray for a restoral, a redemption in their hearts and their souls. Because they're enemies just like I was an enemy of Christ. And Jesus says, love your enemies. Why? So that they can know who I am. Show them the gospel. Don't just preach the gospel to them. Show them the gospel. Man, we need to start having more empathy for people rather than apathy. And that is me preaching to myself here. Because here's the deal. I have a tendency to have some apathy in my life. When I see the craziness in my world and the craziness around me, I tend to get a little frustrated sometimes. Anybody listening can I get an amen? I know you're sitting there. Can I get an amen? Have you ever been frustrated? Have you ever been in that, and out of that frustration, apathy just builds and you're just like, yeah, I don't care if this thing burns to the ground. Whatever. We need to have more empathy rather than apathy. You're going to get farther in life and you've got empathy for people and for people's circumstances and for people's lives. When you have more empathy rather than apathy, you're going to have better experiences. And you're doing the right thing in the long run. Like, think about that. You are doing the right thing in the long run. When you show people grace, when you love people that are not lovable, when you show grace to those that are persecuting you, when you love, when you pray, when you extend a hand out to those that are trying to stab that hand, that is an incredible message. That you believe that the Christmas narrative and the Christmas story is more than just a decoration in the front yard. It is a way of life that can transform people's hearts. The message of Christmas is hope and redemption and love and grace and peace. That is the message of Christmas. That is the message of Christmas. And so as we end this podcast today, this little mini podcast, I want us to think about this. Love your enemies this Christmas. Go out and do something to help someone that maybe maybe, just maybe, is not your favorite person. And I'm preaching this to myself as well. Because I can think of some people that are not my favorite people, but I need to do something to transform their view of who Christ is, maybe by me just being available and me being a vessel that God can use to extend grace and mercy. Like, that's what I need to be doing. And I hope that that's what we all do as a result of this Christmas season. So I love you guys. And I am more than appreciative for your time to listen to this. And I just pray right now that you would be encouraged and challenged. I love you. Merry Christmas. We're very close. We're just like 11 days away from Christmas. So Merry Christmas to you guys. And God bless. And go get them.